Hello, folks. This is Developmental Psychology, and we're looking at middle childhood 6 to 12-year-olds. This is part two. We're going to talk about social and personality development to start with, okay? Kids in this age begin to ask a question in one way or another, essentially meaning, who am I? What am I about? Less in terms of physical attributes and abilities in the comparison they make with others, and more about how they are in terms of their psychological traits. Okay? They begin to develop a transition from total dependency to what we call co regulation towards self regulation in the teen years, we hope. Children realize, first of all, that they're good at some things, but they're not as good at others. They want to do the things that they're good at more than the ones they're not so good at as they compare themselves with others. And they divide their understanding of their life in terms of different spheres and begin to gain competence related to things such as parents and the home life and peers and school and other complexities, maybe Sunday school or things, maybe Cub Scouts and things of those kinds of things, Girl Scouts, um, Campfire Girls. So when we talk about the self-developing, there are different ways to look at this, but again, what they're doing is they're making social comparisons to other children, referencing internally what their abilities are relative to others, their level of competence and expertise, and they also hear the opinions of others. Okay? And they may sort of get stuck a little bit in comparing themselves to less competent children in one area to see that they're doing better, or they may get stuck comparing themselves to more competent children in a particular area, and this in this way either protect their self-esteem or to in some ways needing to manage it. So what they tend to do is hang around with similar children. We do that as adults too, by and large, but children really obviously do this. In most cases, children fare quite well when parents both work. Okay, as long as parents are available, one or the other or both, alternately at least, um, when the children are awake for substantial periods of time. We would not want to get into a position where the parents are rarely there, one or the other or both, when children are not awake very much or gone to school. See, we want the parents to be available at home substantial periods of time, at least one or the other. But when the parents are loving and sensitive to what the child needs and provide adequate, appropriate substitute care, children generally do okay. Now, children do respond to the psychological adjustment of parents, especially moms. So, moms who are, if they have some significant psychological disorder or problem to handle, when the mom is adequately managing that sort of thing, that's fine. And when they're not, that's a problem for the children and for the mom. Okay? So we want everybody to get the help they need, including families. The help is not easy to find, and it's not cheap if you don't have really good insurance or money. It's a broken system in the United States, and I'm very open about that. Okay. Talk about unpopular children. These are kids. By the way, were you popular or not? Do you remember 6 to 12? Did that change over that period of time? Unpopular children are ones that are those who are not as competent socially, and so they may actually be immature emotionally, act inappropriately silly, but they can also be children, the unpopular ones, who are aggressive or overbearing. Shy and withdrawn children are often unpopular, and children who are unattractive, who have handicaps that are physical, who are obese, who are academically challenged, who have issues like stuttering or autism, anything that's obvious, that's different, may become unpopular and even the target of bullies. Okay? I hate even thinking about that, but it happens all the time, doesn't it? Let's talk about friends. So friends provide a number of things. Friends in this age group provide emotional support and help kids handle stress. Believe it or not, that's number one. And in doing that, there's a lot of communication that they get to practice, and they get then to help each other manage and control their emotions. They learn how to do that. They, with friends, foster their own emotional growth. And I would say that one thing that is sometimes overlooked in this area is that proper boundary management is practiced by kids in this age, where some things are okay and some things are not. Closeness, distance is managed, and those sorts of things. Who do we like most in friends? Well, ones that help us laugh or laugh with us, kiddos that are friendly and nice. Friends are ones that are helpful. They're the ones most liked. Ones that compliment us in some way, not compliment, but compliment. Kiddos that share with us, like toys and games and time. Loyalty, kids that are loyal to us and will play when we want to play, and we'll play with them when they want to play. Yeah. Now you may notice that boys and girls construct different play groups. Boys have larger ones than girls, and they're less emotionally close than girls, and boys are more athletic generally, but that's changing, I think. That is to say, their groups are more centered around athletics than girls are, but again, that's changing. Boys have larger groups outside of school, and girls have smaller outside networks. Boys have a hierarchical structure, often according to the ability of the group that they're with, that whatever that is that they value, such as sports ability. Girl groups are more cooperative. Boy groups are more confrontational with each other, and girls are more compromising with each other. Okay. Well, are groups good? Mostly. Usually we get to see how we're doing. We get to hear about other value structures from different kids, and we get some emotional security and social skills. Yeah. Team play, which begins in this age stage. Talk about that in a minute. Of course, some groups can impart negative or prejudices that are negative can be accelerated. So we got to watch out for that, depending on the group. But most groups are quite positive. Team play erupts in 6, 7, 8-year-olds. It is not recommended to start team play with winners and losers before this ability, this understanding of what competition is. Yes, the rules are more complex, and kiddos love to learn the rules. A 9-year-old can remember and cite more rules about football or baseball than some adults, for sure. But look, team play and competitive play are simply metaphorically related to what we do in adulthood, if you think about it. And they're first of all, they're interdependent, which means that they even out different performance levels, and each one can do different things, right, in terms of their performance level, and they relinquish their personal goals for the team. Well, that's what relationships are, adult relationships. In competitive play, each person has a unique function, and the goal attainment is shared. That's what division of labor is in careers. You see. In addition, team play has an experience of winning, but also losing. That's what life is: winning and losing. Yeah. I don't like to think of it as winning and losing. I think of gaining and then gaining experience. Okay, so let's talk about bullying for just a minute. I wanted to save that for a little bit. So bullying is rampant. 160,000 kids a day lose their day because they're afraid of going to school due to bullying. 90% of middle school kids say they've been bullied. And about 10 to 15% or more of kids admit to bullying others. Half of all bullies come from emotionally, physically abusing homes. And bullied children are ones that can be spotted easily on the playground or in classes by bullies. They can be spotted very easily. These are often passive loners, kiddos who are emotional children who cry easily, kiddos who are not assertive, who show fear quickly. Now, a program that's been instituted in a number of schools, but not nationally, which I believe should be, for handling the bullying situation, is teaching all the kids in the school to step in as a group when they see bullying going on, because when it happens, the bullying stops. So if you have 20 kids, 10 kids that respond to a bullying situation, the bully will quit. But they have to step in. You have to teach them how to step in, but the program does work. Let's talk for a minute about divorce. Well, school-age children, particularly 6, 7, 8, often blame themselves. Part of that is from their egocentrism that still exists, but it may also be part of a strategy that they have to create attention and to try to glean a focus upon themselves so that the parents may stop fighting and attend to the child. But at any rate, children whose parents have divorced or separated begin to show things like anxiety, can develop depression, often have trouble with sleep disturbances. They may even develop phobias. They may want to sleep with the mom or dad that they're staying with, and usually it's the mom that they stay with. After a year and a half to 2 years on average, most kids return to the pre-divorce psychological development that they had. To me, that's very sad that they go through that. It's very sad. Twice as many children of divorced parents need counseling as children from intact families. But I'll tell you this: living at home, a child living at home in a place where there's a lot of conflict, a lot of yelling and screaming and things like that, is very much more stressful than having to adjust to a divorce or separation, assuming that the parents are civil with each other after the separation or divorce and don't use the child as a pawn and don't talk badly about the other parent. Can you imagine what that means to the child to hear that parent talking badly about their opposite sex parent or same-sex parent, whatever it might be? That's awful. Single parenting began to rise in the 60s. You probably don't know this, but before the 60s, late 60s really, if you were a single parent, that was considered really odd and bad. It was a social faux pas. But it has steadily increased since then, and it's not at all uncommon. 25% of all children under 18 in the United States live with only one parent, and 90+% of those are the mom. 60% of African American children live in a single parent family, and 35% of Hispanic children live in single parent families. Okay? Let's talk for a minute about blended families. Blended families are those in which there are reconstituted families when couples either remarry or reconnect in some way following a divorce or separation, and they have at least one, so there's one stepchild living with them, okay? Now, what this means is that you're really looking at more than 50% of families are stepchildren. 50% of children are stepchildren. Now, what being in a blended family means is that there's a lot of what we call role ambiguity. which means that the roles and the expectations of the people in the family that the step-parent joined and the step-parent are unclear of what their expectations and are. See, so children generally adjust fairly smoothly, but it takes some time. Some good things can actually happen. The financial status of the family can improve, yes. The family now has more people to do more things, so chores are a little more equal in distribution. There's more social interaction and attention, potentially. Now, overall, I would have to add to all this material that's from your text and from the PowerPoints to say that adjustment of children in blended families depends upon the age of the child and the gender of the child as well, and the quality of the new relationship that the parents have, as well as the availability of the biological parent. Okay? All right. In terms of multi-generational families, this is where you have not just two generations, the parents and the children, but maybe grandparents and maybe great-grandparents. This is the possibility for rich experiences, but not one that's common among Caucasian families in the United States. It's often thought by kids, we don't want to live with parents or grandparents, but the rest of the world doesn't typically operate that way. Most places live in multi-generational families, and a lot of that has to do with finances or custom, because you've got rich experiences available with multi-generations, with grandparents and great-grandparents. So that's the norm. All right, one last video, part 3, coming up.